All right, so then, right, I'd been a spread offense, just like a pro-style system. I played at the University of Wisconsin, 12 personnel, 21 personnel, all that good stuff. Then Jed came and took over, and we were going to run the single wing, okay? Tony's laughing in the back, as well he should. All right, it's a cult, right? There are secret meetings. It's really fun if you go. There's not like cult systems for, the Glazier's like a cult system for pro-style, right? But like single wing, you got to get invited to like the conclave or the colloquium or whatever the hell they call it, okay? And it's crazy. So I'm like, all right, what are we going to do about throwing it? Because I went to my first single wing clinic, and this guy, oh man, coach in Iowa, Bob Howard. If you ever had a chance to have Bob Howard speak, it is an amazing experience. He kept talking about the spinner back and the spinner back and the spinner back, and it took me the whole time to realize that was the quarterback, right? That was the guy that spun in the system. And I'm like, man, okay, we're going to throw this thing ever? Because that's what I like. How can I learn this? I only know one system. Right, and this now just going down the curve, right? It gets really tricky, okay? And then we're going to be in balanced stances, right? Like we're not going to have my inside foot up, my outside foot back. Like this is going to be, I'm not sure how I'm going to survive this, right? At the high school level, right? I think being different is good. You have to be, I think everyone's doing it, right? We weren't doing it. We played Franklin in 2006. They were running full spread, right? The splits were like a foot from the sideline. And our cornerback still lined up, head up on the guy, believe it or not, because no one ever saw this stuff. They didn't have divider rules for high school. Well, the thing is, to compete, and we're at Brookfield Central now, we don't have, we've had success, but if you see the lines that we have, it has not been because we've had we do not look the best getting off the bus. So what do you have to do? You have to be different. We have to prepare. We saw it in 2017. We played Waukesha West in the semifinal game. And our offensive line coach comes up, he's like, I think we're going to have a good day. I'm like, why is that? Because I just watched their scout team run through our plays, and it looks nothing like what we do. Sounds good. And then when you're better, you'll be better. Okay? Meaning, hey, yeah, you need to do what you got to do to survive, right? Be different. But then when you're better, you're going to have a really good chance to make a run, and that's what we're able to do. Learning is a good thing. Going and learning how to do new things in football is a good thing. The game is constantly evolving. Right, it gives you an identity as a program, and I think that can be adopted, meaning you don't have to be married to it. Drew Lashinsky was the best quarterback in the state for 2 years in a row. We threw the ball, but we called ourselves single wing. You can adapt to the people that you have. Julian Bonda, same thing. He was a slot, but he was really a receiver. Okay, you can adapt and adopt whatever you need to based on your personnel. I think it really simplifies the lower level. Hey, you're on 6, 7, and 8. You can be good at power sweep and counter, you're fine. Right? Throw a stab in there, and you'll have a home run every once a game, but you'll be fine. And I think for that, it really makes it simple on the offensive lineman, right? And then creative minds still work in old school football. There are things that I've learned in watching spread stuff, like, hey, can we do this? Can we run power but give sweep? And that was what we had to do against Brookfield East. We incorporated RPOs. Right? There's things that you can do to adapt, even though you're in the model. It's still weird to line up against an unbalanced front every down of the football game, right? And you get people to do weird things when they do that. The other thing that it helped me do is it helped me identify that I needed to change the system. Okay, so we switched to flexbone last year because I still had that same thing. We do not have a lot of linemen coming up through the program. And my son's a 7th grader, so I get to see all these kids. We don't have a lot of bodies. We need 2-on-1 at the point of attack. We need to read people instead of block them. Okay, it was an offensive line-driven decision. We throw the ball pretty well at 7-on-7, but our quarterback last year got absolutely killed. Okay, and I think you have to make decisions as a program based on what your offensive line, your defensive line can do, because it dictates, right, those are some of your harder numbers to get. Again, lets you see the whole program, and then, again, you can obviously evolve, right? We've connected with a lot of coaches, Friends University, Harding, right? Those guys are taking flexbone stuff and kind of changing how that looks, even in the pistol, right, or full gun. So there's a lot of ways, again, getting into a new system, I think, really helped, right, me sort of evolve as a coach. Well, then Jed comes in, he's like, hey, I need to have 2 guys in the room. I'm the offensive line coach. I did take our team to the state championship game, right? Like I was the guy, I coached all 6 positions, right? And your ego gets involved because there's no way that someone else, right? Why do I need anyone else's help? Okay, and then what if we don't get along? How is that going to work, right? I think having a second offensive line coach is the most valuable thing you can do because it is so hard to see 5 positions at one time. Right? So one, it had an extra set of eyes in practice of the game. Right? He was in the box, I was on the field. I got the front side, you got the back side, right? Or we had a side of the ball, whatever it might be, right? There's different leverage points there. Okay, knowledge of the system. He played for it, he coached it with Jed down in Bradford, right? So he was able to come in and he was able to be the eyes and ears for me early on, like I talked about, to help learn the system. And I think Jed obviously did a really good job of bringing in people that he trusts and that knew that were supportive. Some of us, or if you take a head coaching job and you don't have guys that you already trust, that's a very hard process. I'm fortunate enough to keep all the staff that I had. But again, bringing him in, it's part of that learning process of what you want to have. You can play good cop, bad cop. I was more the good cop. Jake has no filter, or just like straight to the point. Like, he's going to tell you what he's here to tell you. And I think there's a good balance between the two of us, which again, you can go bad cop, like, was it Good Guys? Right? You can both be who you are. That's fine, but you get to be who you are. And then it's spread out the criticism. If you've ever worked for Coach Kennedy or know who he is, no one is spared. Hey, you're a coach, you get yelled at, you're a player, you get yelled at, it doesn't matter. So at least for us, we could balance out the criticism of all the things that we weren't doing right, because we always felt with the talent that we had that we were always going to be the weakest link. So it was kind of nice to have someone else to kind of, and we could also vent to each other about things like, man, I thought we did okay on that one. Yeah, so did I, but here we are. And then what's great about this whole thing is it turned out that we were like-minded, even though we had different ways of approaching things. He's a great friend, and he always has additional wisdom because he had been places I hadn't been. He coached with Coach Labuda when he was in college, right? Having been a part of the Menominee football program and being with Coach is a huge leverage. Being with Coach Kennedy for a number of years before that, right? It provided additional wisdom, and I consider Jake probably one of my best friends. And not many people smile when they're around him, so that was kind of a funny picture that we pulled out this year. Humble pie, right? I had the chance, the guy on top. Anyone know who the guy on top is? Look, who is it? Mike Ervovich. There you go, sir. He's now the head coach at Butler. Anyone know who the guy on the bottom is? Jim Huber. Coach Huber's my offensive line coach. My best friend's dad, or my best friend growing up was Jason Palermo. Jason's dad, John, was a defensive line coach. He moved in when they came with Coach Alvarez from Notre Dame. Jim was the offensive line coach, and really so much of what I believe in comes from what I learned from him being at Wisconsin. But then I came to a Glazier clinic in Chicago and had a chance to hear Coach Umovich talk. And I always had, this is the way I've done it because I've been at Wisconsin. This is the way I've done it because I've always been at Wisconsin. And I had to realize that he got up and talked about the simple systems they do. It's inside zone, outside zone, I think power. And he talked about, he's like, well, I had a freshman. He's like, maybe you guys are better than me. I don't know. He goes, maybe you guys are better. But I had a freshman guard that had to line up against Darnell Dockett. And I know some of you in this room are going to tell me, well, his split has to be 2 feet. Well, I made it 6 inches because there was no way he was going to get under him on the under. And I'm like, wow, like, are you allowed to do that? Like, I'm not sure that's allowed. Like, can you change the splits to adapt to personnel? And he talked a lot about that. And it was the best moment of the whole clinic was I went up to shake his hand, say I appreciate, like I learned so much. I couldn't tell you the concepts, but just the idea that, man, you can do things differently. And the guy ahead of me that was talking to him was trying to convince him, some high school line coach in Illinois, was trying to convince him that you can really keep the same splits. And he literally says, like, hey, man, he's like, you're right. You just probably know more than me, and tapped him on the shoulder, and I walked up next. Right? And it's like, holy cow. So there's guys that will still fight you, right? Maybe these guys are where they at because they've been adaptable, right? Maybe that's why they're there. Maybe it's not. And again, I think we all battle that. I got to hold the standard, right? But also you got to do what you got to do to put your players in position to win. And that to me was eye-opening. And we had, especially at the high school level, right? We have different type bodies, right? In the flex bone offense, I watch guys run like 160-pound tackles. Well, you got to do something different because you ain't going to base block a whole lot of people 160 pounds. So maybe you can have the success because you're adaptable, right? Personnel dictates decision-making, put kids in the position to win. And that's a hard thing to do because we are all really smart guys. We know a lot of football. We can clinic and board with the best of them, but our kids may not be able to do it, and what do we have to do? And that's part of the reason why we went to the flex bone. We can throw the ball. We killed it in 7-on-7 last summer, right? We were 4-7 in the regular season, okay? So again, we have a lot of, but again, it's because our offensive line couldn't do, if we'd have put them in the spread, right, we'd have been 1-8, okay, maybe. So we have to find ways to be adaptable, right? And there's always going to be critics. I kind of like to say this too. I say this to my kids. If I ask my kids, and if you're around kids these days, they can't make a decision or they don't want to pick a favorite, they don't want to piss anybody off. If I asked you what your favorite movie was, what would you tell me? Remember the Titans. Okay. Some people don't want to tell me. I say, you know what? Guess what? Your second favorite movie won't be mad. Your second favorite movie is not going to be mad at you for what you chose first. Okay, it's this. Guess what? Your old offensive line coach, your old head coach, the guy that's not there anymore, he won't care because you know what? It doesn't affect him anymore. He really don't know. He's too busy worried about other things. So you got to make the choices that you're going to make, and not everyone's going to like it, right? Tony's going to hate single wing no matter what, right? And we're going to run it because it's what we need, right? And that's okay. And it's okay to disagree.